Vados from Dragon Ball Super. And
This is Paul St.
Super, and you're watching
Brian Awesome. There's a reason we call him Brian Awesome. It's because he's awesome.
Yu-Gi-Oh! And many, many other crazy cartoon voices throughout your childhood, some of which I'm sure warped your minds. Like Pecky Pudgeon from Viva Pinata, Dr. Z from Dinosaur King, Gowry from Slayers. But one of the things I like to do at the conventions, besides meeting you guys and doing the autographs and the Q&As, is that I've been in this business for over 30 years as both a voice actor and a director and producer of these shows. So yesterday I did my voice acting panel, and today I'm doing my directing and adaptation panel, because this community, the anime world, and our geekdom, as I'm part of as well, usually has multiple creative, talented people in it, right? So this gives you an opportunity to ask me questions about how the shows are made, all of the people that go into the production of these shows, and giving you maybe a sense of where your creativity as a person might fit into a production team. I'll focus on the directing side of it because I'm sure a lot of you would like to know that nuance, how to direct talent. But we'll talk about all of it. We'll talk about the graphics people, we'll talk about the music composers and the sound designers, all of that stuff. So that maybe somewhere in there you will go, oh, I like to do that kind of stuff. I didn't realize that was needed in the creation of the show. Make sense? Cool. So does anybody have a question first before I go on my ramble? Does anyone ask me? Yeah.
What were some of your, as Brock or as a director, or just what were some of your favorite Pokemon related memories during the Kids WB era?
Well, I mean, that's very specific in terms of the acting side or of that particular show. But I mean, it's just fun to work on a show that's obviously that popular, when we don't never think that anything we're working on is going to be successful. But I don't have any real specific memories. It's just I got a chance as one of the actors on the show to direct the other actors on the show, because I directed myself on a lot of Pokemon, and then I also directed Veronica and Tara and Rachel and Maddie and all of those people. So it gave me a chance to actually develop some friendships with them, because otherwise we just go in and work one-on-one. But I got to actually meet those people and work with them, yeah.
I always kind of wondered about this with people who act and direct, and then they have to direct themselves.
Right.
How do you even do that?
Right, so I don't recommend it to start off. It was something that I worked my way up to be able to do. I also self-engineer. That's another part of sort of the soup to nuts. If you ask me to do a job for you, you basically could just send me the script, and then I'm going to send you back the final product, which is a nice thing. But it's hard to judge one's own performance. I've been doing it for a long time, even before I was doing the voice acting as a musician. I produce my own music. So I have gotten very good at separating Eric Stuart, the producer, to Eric Stuart, the talent, or Eric Stuart, the singer. So when I'm in the booth and I'm doing my thing and I'm acting, great. But then when I step out of the booth and I listen back and I'm editing, I'm then the producer and the editor. And so I can then say, that actor can do that better, meaning me. Like that's, but that's a skill set that I don't think is something you start out with. It's something that you develop over time. So let's talk about that whole process, the whole process of how you get to something like that. So there are two forms of cartoons that I work on. There's ADR, where we are matching lip flap to already existing picture, such as a Pokemon or a Yu-Gi-Oh! So I'm watching the screen and I'm looking at the way the mouth moves and counting syllables and breaks and trying to get the line to fit into that. And then there's prelay, which is recording the voices first, assembling the dialogue in conversation, and then the animators work to that. So the original Pokemon is done as a prelay, and then the Japanese artists are drawing it. We are then doing the ADR version. But I've worked on shows like Viva Pinata and Turtles, where we record the actors first. So as an actor, of course you prefer to do prelay stuff, because I can read the line any way I feel it needs to be read, and let the animators figure out how to match my lip flap, right? In a lot of prelay, bigger projects, I got a chance to work on the original Madagascar movie, and I sat in the booth with Chris Rock as his, I was Ben Stiller for him if he needed someone to play off of in scenes. And they had a camera on his face. Does anyone know why they might have a camera on his face for a voiceover?
Mocap.
No, not mocap. Now they're saying.
Expression?
Exactly, facial expressions. That's why the characters that are drawn look just like the actor that's playing them, right? Because they sync up when he was saying those lines and the face he was making, and then the artist knows what to do with the character. It's great. It's great because a lot of the ADR that we do, the line is written one way and we look at what the picture is and it's like, he looks so angry but I'm saying something nice. Well, that's the line we need there. Oh, but that doesn't really match, right? It'd be cooler if it was the other way around. I get to record the line the way it's supposed to be read and let the animator draw it the right way. I would love to be able to do a project where they have the camera, but nobody really needs to see me doing funny faces. All right, so let's take a show like Yu-Gi-Oh! As an example of the template of how much goes into making a 20-minute episode. 20 minutes because American television, there's 10 minutes of commercials per half hour, right? Which I'm sure you guys know, because you're like, oh, another commercial. Now at least we can skip most of those, right? Especially if you record it. So the show is purchased. You buy the episodes, you buy the season. Okay, we got a 52 episode, or maybe we got 26 episodes we're going to start with, right? Well, first of all, they're not formatted for American television, right? They don't run 20 minutes, right? They might be full half-hour shows, and they're not made with act breaks, cliffhangers, so that you come back after the commercial. So, the first step is, what language are they in?
Japanese.
Right, so it's very helpful if you speak both English and Japanese.
So you
have to do a transliteration of the script. Does anybody know the difference between translating and transliteration?
Transliteration when you just change the Japanese characters into...
No. Nope.
One is matching with flaps and one is just...
So think about the word transliteration, yeah.
Translating is word for word. Transliteration is putting it in our own speak.
So transliteration is the actual literal translation of the language, so that it's not the way we speak. It's the opposite of what you said. It's not the way we speak, but it's the literal translation. So if there's a line in there that is in Japanese and you translate it literally into English, it's not going to be spoken English. And it's also not going to match lip flap at all. You're not even thinking about lip flap at that point. You're just writing out what is being said at that moment by that character. So our production assistants who are bilingual will sit with a script that's in Japanese with time code on it. You guys know what time code is. Have you seen that on the news with the numbers flashing sometimes, right? The bottom of the picture, right? So hours, minutes, seconds, frames. That's the reference we all use instead of saying, it's that scene where the guy's running down the street, I need you to start talking there. No, that's kind of just arbitrary, like somewhere, right? No, it has to be specific. So one column on the script is time code in, where the line starts. One column is time code out, where the line ends. And then there's the Japanese dialogue, and then there's a comments column on the end, where there's a character list as well. There's one of the columns says what character is speaking. So, this production assistant sits there watching the original picture, listening to the original Japanese dialogue, and on that script, typing in, changing the dialogue from the original Japanese to the transliterated English. So then that's all done. Then that goes to a writer to take that transliteration and turn it into spoken English that makes sense for the show. Now that writer is looking at lip flap. So there might be this long sentence that has to fit in 5-syllable things, turning it into a phrase that fits there. So that writer has to take the content of what's being said and turn it into matching lip flap, spoken English. That's tricky. So let's think about this. 20-minute episode. We had to record 2 episodes a week of every Yu-Gi-Oh show. Could the same writer turn around a script in 1 week? Could they do 2 scripts in 1 week? Could they write episode 1 and episode 2? Do you think that they could do that? How long do you think it takes to watch a lip flap and take a transliterated script and turn it into spoken English? How long do you think?
For each episode?
For each episode. How long do you think it takes to write a 20-minute episode, changing that literal English into the story?
5 hours.
5 hours? I wish it was 5 hours. No, it takes about a week to write a show.
What?
You've got to sit there and watch every shot, count syllables, make sure that content can be said in those syllables, playing it back, looking at it again, right? So can that same writer write episode 1 and episode 2 in 1 week? So what happens is you get a staff of writers. You might write episode 1, you're going to write episode 2, you're going to write episode 3. It might come back to you for episode 4 if you're quick. But it might not. You might write episode 4, then you get 5. So what is the biggest fear of having multiple writers working on a show?
It doesn't have the same.
Continuity, right? Especially if it's a brand new show. How do you know how to handle episode 2 if she hasn't finished writing episode 1 yet? You might know the story, but you don't know the vibe that she's created with the way the characters speak. And I don't mean what voices they have, just the dynamic that they have with each other. So, while all of these people are writing episodes at the same time, the executive producer, who's also a writer, has to supervise and guide them so that when they're giving things back, there's continuity. And you can sometimes see on many, many hit shows when another writer has written a show, another director has done an episode, because it just seems there's something different about it. Not necessarily one is better than the other, but there's something, the continuity is lost. So, or even the way the names are pronounced could be a little inconsistent, right? It's because we haven't heard the way they're going to be pronounced yet in episode 1 because it's not finished. And the executive producer didn't make sure that everybody knew that. So, the writers are all working at the same time. Let's talk about music. So, why do you think a production company would replace the original music in the show if the music worked really well in the original Japanese? Why do you think that they would do that?
I would say a lot of times it's rights.
It's rights, and what do rights add up to?
Money.
Money. So, a show like Yu-Gi-Oh! Is dubbed in multiple languages, but it's licensed by one company who bought the rights from Japan to do it, right?
For kids?
So if they buy the rights to it and then sell it and license it out to multiple countries, they are changing the voices because they're speaking in another language. But what do they not have to change? The music. So if the production company writes their own music, every time those shows air in other countries, they're pulling in royalties from the way the show airs. Smart. Probably one of the biggest money-making pieces of the cartoon world. So, how does that work? Well, there's a music supervisor. And that music supervisor says, okay, I need an action scene from this time code to this time code. You're going to write that for me. It's a minute long. You're going to write this romantic restaurant scene for me. It's 30 seconds long at this particular time code to this. So you assign cues to multiple composers. Those composers are basically watching picture, seeing what's going on. Now the new dialogue isn't necessarily in there yet. My music supervisor would ask me to scratch the whole episode. So I would jump in the booth as the director and record all of the dialogue. Not really playing the different voices, but just mapping it out so you kind of knew what was being said there. so that the music people had a sense of what was kind of be. They have the script, but the voices haven't been recorded yet for real. So that could be a team of 6 composers, all sending in music. So if you are a music person, if you know how to play keyboards with MIDI and can watch picture, you can score music to these things. It's a lot of fun too. But once again, those people are creating something that is a monetary bonus to the cartoon production company, right? So all those pieces are placed, and so that's going on at the same time as all of these episodes are being written by the writing team. Sound design. In America, everything needs to be bigger, louder, brighter, right? That's what we do. The subtleties of anime are not necessarily enough for American television and the American audience. So there is someone's job to do sound design, to bump everything up. Now, I'm sure you guys have heard the word foley, right? A foley artist is someone who actually has a studio soundstage where they are like throwing steak up against glass so it sounds like someone's face is planted against something, right? All sorts of crazy stuff to create these things. Shaking a piece of aluminum for a dark and stormy night, right? Well, we don't have that kind of budget in cartoons, and we don't have the time to do that. So we have a sound effect library. So someone's job is to sit there and watch the show and place in footsteps and swords clanking together and an explosion here and the sounds of waves, scoring all of the things that you see that need sound support. So sound design is a really cool thing. And you can create your own things, like the person that created the sound of a lightsaber, right? Combinations of sounds to create a unique sound. And then you make a library of those things, so when that lightsaber comes back again in another episode, you have that sound already created. Cool, that's really great. Usually there can be one sound designer per show, but it does take them hours to do a show, because you're watching it down and going, oh, click, 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 oh, one more footstep, click, okay, got it. You know, timing that stuff out, shirts rustling, things like that, pulling things out of the sound effect library. Great job. All of a sudden now, we've got a team, what, of 10 people so far, maybe 12? And we haven't even started talking about the actors. So, the show is also formatted the wrong way. It's got to be cut up. It's got to be turned into the format that's going to air on television with those act breaks in there. So someone in the video side, the avid editors are doing that. They are cutting all of the episodes up. Now, let's talk about the censorship.
Oh.
American television, between the hours of 6:30 and 12 o'clock on Saturday mornings, are geared towards television, and there are very, very strict laws about broadcast standards and practices. For all of you who want to blame the production company, you are so wrong. It's not how it works at all. Every network has a person that is the filter to every show that airs during that time. You send in the script, you send in the picture, you send in everything you possibly can, and they say to you, you can't do that, cut that shot, can't use this scene, that's a gun there, we can't use that, get rid of this, change that dialogue, and then you have to tweak it. So every time you think that it was cut out and changed because the production company decided to do something, you're wrong. You're 100% wrong. And each network has their own person and their own set of rules that do not make sense to each other. One network might say you can't do this, and another network says we don't have a problem with that. So it's based on their advertising clients. A more conservative network will be stricter with certain things, such as James not being able to be in a bikini because that was promoting being a transsexual. How many shows have you seen in your life where someone has been in drag?
Bugs Bunny.
It's been for comedy's sake or whatever, and it's even won awards. Mrs. Doubtfire, Tootsie, Some Like It Hot, Bosom Buddies,
Bugs Bunny.
Bugs Bunny, right? So the fact that that offended one person that worked at that network enough to make us change that gives you an idea of what we were dealing with. Yeah, do you have a question? Yeah.
Yeah, that's actually why they had to cut the cards in Yu-Gi-Oh! And replace them with like just pictures of the monster, not only a card, because of advertising laws.
What are you talking about?
In Yu-Gi-Oh! The original Japanese version had actual pictures of the cards that you could play with. In the American version, it was just a picture of whatever the picture was.
Yeah,
on the
well,
picture.
see, I don't know where you get your information from, but you need to talk to the director of the show. Here's how it worked. The reason we didn't use all of the cards and also the cards are changed is for the next point I was going to make. What language are the cards in? What language do they need to be in on American television? So when that card gets played visually in the show, it is someone's job to change the graphics on it as it comes into play, frame by frame. So the less we had to show in Japanese, the less work it was. It has nothing to do. We own everything that went along with that card game. There's legality is, yes, exactly. So that's what that's about. But the censorship side is what I'm getting to with the avid editing, the video editing. If I have to remove a shot, does the show run short?
Yes.
Can it run short? So what do I do if I took out 10 seconds of someone pointing a gun at someone's head in a Yu-Gi-Oh episode, and now I don't run 20 minutes anymore? What do I do?
It extends something else and add dialogue?
No, what do you think? What do you think? You've seen it a million times. I use a previous shot and repeat it somewhere.
When you come back from commercial.
No, I steal that 10-second shot from somewhere else in the show, and I put it in again, because how many times have you seen repeated shots?
100.
Because if I take away, I have to put it back. Now I can also be clever and flip it. So it might be looking like it's a different shot, but it's still the same shot, right? So that's another skill, and it has to be done because the format has to maintain the format for American television and commercials. Okay, now it's been reformatted. Now it's time to dub the show. We record one actor at a time. Yu-Gi-Oh has at least 6 main characters, 20-minute show. How long do you think it takes to record one episode of Yu-Gi-Oh, just the actors?
3 weeks.
3 weeks, no.
3 hours.
No.
What?
3 months.
So remember, we need to do 2 episodes a week.
Oh, 10 hours.
So the average time is 15 to 18 hours of ADR to record a show. I had to direct 2 episodes a week. My average was 15 hours a show. So that's 30 hours of just being in the studio recording people for that week. That's being recorded. The music is being created. Episodes are being written in advance, and someone's doing sound design. When everything is all put together, I do an ADR review. I take all my dialogue and I watch the show down and make sure the lip flap is matching, and make sure I haven't missed a line, and make sure that the names of the cards are consistent and I didn't call it one thing here and one thing there. And if there is some inconsistency, because maybe even the writer made a mistake and we didn't catch it when we were recording it, I have to make notes that those things need to be fixed. And then I send that to the producer to review. And the producer might say, I love this, but I want to change this, I want to change this, I want all these changes and lines, because they didn't like the lines that were written, even though they were approved on the script. Once they heard them in the show, they don't like them. And then they might even say, I had some cameo guest stars, because as a director, at least being the senior director, I could cast people. I didn't always have to have an audition. I could just say, I want to use so-and-so for this small role. If they didn't like it, I had to replace them. So hopefully I didn't make a choice that the producer didn't like. So once the dialogue is approved, the mixer brings in all of the elements to bake that cake. Music, sound effects, all the dialogue, and now has to mix the show. And that takes them about 4 to 5 days to mix one episode of Yu-Gi-Oh. That's a lot of time, but it's a very, very difficult show. From all of the characters talking, to all of the music, to all of the effects, where those things sit in the mix, that is a skill that is a lot of fun, but it's also something you really need to be able to focus on, and you can't rush that. So that's all going on at the same time. You add in the graphics people that are doing that work, and we had a team of 150 people on our production side. We just had, from all the people who are doing the licensing and, and all of that, it's a huge, huge production. So the last thing I'll say before I'll take some more questions is the dynamic of directing. I use this analogy. Imagine you were at a dinner party and there were 10 people sitting around a table with you. And you are all, it's all very casual, everyone's all hanging out, whatever. And you've got this great joke. It's a little off color, it's a little dirty, but it's still funny. It's not inappropriate, but it's not for everybody. You tell that joke and you look around the table. By the reactions of everybody at that table from that joke, you will be able to tell who you can tell more jokes like that to, who you could never tell another joke like that to, and also who would roll their eyes and just go, oh, okay, that's kind of funny, whatever. They think you're funny, but they don't want to show it too much. You can pick up on the nuances of everybody. You can do this in real life as well. You can say the same thing to 10 different people and you will get 10 different reactions. If you do not pay attention to how they react, you will be a bad director. So if I ask an actor to do something, I'm also gauging what type of personality they have. Are they confident? Are they kind of shy? Are they funny? Do they understand sarcasm? Right? I make a joke that sometimes sarcasm stops at the Mason-Dixon line. Because I'm from New York, everything I say is sarcastic. And I say sarcastic things to people sometimes. I live in Tennessee, and I love my Nashvillians. I love living in the South, trust me. But I say some things and people take me literally. I saw a guy at Home Depot with one of those big, giant, fake rocks for his garden, and he lifted it up and put it in the back of his truck, and I was like, my goodness, you're incredibly strong. And he said, it's a fake rock. And I don't mean he was dumb, he just thought I was being serious. And I was like, wow, okay, all right, I'm gonna have to try to work on some other material. So, the reason I say this to you is because if you are going to take on the role of being in charge of a production where you are going to lead, you also have to remember that you are not there to get your way. Your job is to look at the project that you are trying to produce or direct and say, how can I make it the best it can be? Here are my actors. How can I make this actor shine? Because if this actor shines, I shine. And the show benefits. If I only want to get my way, and I'm not open to paying attention to what I'm dealing with with the actors, because they might teach me something too. I might produce something that's my way, but it's bad, and it's not benefiting the show. So it's also great to listen, and that's that paying attention to the reaction. You all are familiar with my dear friend in real life, though my rival in Yu-Gi-Oh, Dan Green, who plays Yu-Gi. Dan and I are very, very good friends. We're actually working on an original content series ourselves right now, which I'll tell you about in a second. But Dan is confident in his skill, and he also knows that I am a huge believer in his amazing ability as an actor. The joke I say to him is, hey, that was a really good take, but can we do the next one with some talent? And he'll laugh, because he knows I'm not being really mean, I'm playing with him. And he might actually look at that and say, you know what, I think I got a better one in me, let me do one. And he'll laugh it off, because it's not me being mean. But I can say that to some other actors who are very, very fragile. Because being an actor is very vulnerable. You are being an open book, you are being a piece of clay, mold me, tell me what you want me to do, and if you gain their trust and then also give them a little dig, they might close up like a clam and go off in the corner, and you can never get that performance. You lose that trust, right? You can ask any of the actors that I've worked with over the years, and many of them are people that you'll see at conventions and things like that, and they will tell you two things. I bet you all of Kaiba's money. He is the toughest director I've worked with, but he is one of the best directors I've worked with, because they know what I'm trying to get out of them is their best. Bella Hudson, who played My Valentine, and also she played on the 4Kids version of One Piece, she played Luffy. She's a very talented woman. She came in to do something for me, and I knew she did some dialects, and I said, I want you to play this character with this accent. And I just brought her in. And she said, well, I don't know if I can do that. I've never done that before. And I said, yeah, I know, but you can do this, this, and this, and I know you have an ear for it. I'm going to play you a reference of what I want, and you're going to do it. Because I know you're the right voice for it, and you have the right acting chops for it. And she listened, and she did it. And to this day, she's like, yeah, I was happy that Eric believed in me enough as an actor to know that I could do this role, because he heard it in my performances of other roles. And that's also something that, as a director, pay attention. Because sometimes people are typecast, and you think that they can only do one thing. Now, going back to Dan played a character for me in Viva Pinata called Hudson Horstachio that is the most over-the-top, pompous, Fraser Crane-esque movie star horse that is brilliant. His comedic timing is great, and everyone thinks he's so serious because Yami is so serious. You need to watch Viva Pinata and listen to him do that. And sometimes it takes twisting arms to get the producers to let you cast someone against type. I don't think anyone would have expected James from Team Rocket to be Kaiba. Or if I had been playing Kaiba, do you think they would have read me as James? Oh, he's serious, he's dark. James is comedic, he's goofy, he's whatever. No, you have to listen to what the actor is doing, see what kind of direction they can take, and go, you know what? This person might have that in them. All right, so there's my spiel about what I do. Now you guys can ask me some crazy questions. Yes?
I'm a composer and a producer as well, based in Brooklyn. And,
oh, great. Where in Brooklyn?
Great Point.
Okay, I'm from Brooklyn Heights in Carroll Gardens.
Cool, just off to you.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty familiar with the ad world and sort of how that music supervision works with commercials and things like
Yeah.
that. But I'm really interested in this animation side.
Yep.
And are you outsourcing the music supervision to a music house for each production, or are you kind of have an in-house music supervisor or music person that's kind of then dubbing out all your ADR and your
Right. So that's a really good question. And it's good that I got a hometown paisan here. So the question really is how are we outsourcing the musics to in terms of subcontractors and things like that. The shows that I worked on that were, of course, network shows had a different kind of budget. We had an in-house music supervisor and one or two in-house composers. But the workload is too much for those people. They would work on specific things like the theme, or if there was a song in the middle of Pokemon, let's write this. These were the things, of course, also had a potential for more royalties, right? Because they might be reused, and of course the theme is going to be, but the cues, the individual cues were all subcontracted through the music supervisor. And it would be not one music house. That music supervisor, our in-house guy, would have multiple composer pals and say, you write these 6 things for me, you write for, and the supervisor supervised every show that we did. And then might have, well, he writes really fun, lighter stuff, let's have him work on the younger show. Or he's writing really dark, cool things, let's have him write the Yu-Gi-Oh stuff. So they all had their category that they were doing. Smaller budget shows would probably be happy with someone who could do a lot of stuff, right? If you were working with a smaller production company and said to them, look, I can write everything you need, any style, or I can get it for you, and then you became the outsourced music supervisor. Look, I know as a producer for other things, if I can make one phone call and get all of the things I need instead of 6, I'm gonna make the one phone call. I talk about this from the other side of like sync licensing. As a singer-songwriter, I own all the rights to all the music I've ever written. So why would someone not come to me? I've done 10 albums worth of material. A music supervisor for TV shows doesn't have to get clearance from 10 different writers and publishers and all of that. If they called me, I could give them a yes or no with one question. The same thing with the music supervisor. I would love to be able to just go, dude, can you get me all this? I need this in 2 weeks. And you're like, yeah, and you got multiple people working for you. You then, of course, get sent to you first, you make sure it's great, you like what it is, and then you present it. And I think the new model today with business is we're all virtual companies. You know, it doesn't have to be an office. It doesn't. I mean, this could be your office. You could be coordinating that from a convention. But I do think the one-stop shop is a great, at least a template to try to focus on. You know, and I know smaller production companies that would at least take a submission, you know, especially some of the anime places. But you have to remember what they want is a piece of what you're doing, right? Because your music will make that company money. So you're not gonna own it. You might get a piece of it, but you're not gonna own it outright. Whereas if you were just doing television stuff, you know, series and things like that, sync licensing, you could collect your royalties. Thank you very much. They're paying you, but you're also collecting back end. Whereas the anime stuff has a smaller budget and they want more of what you have. Does that make sense? But good question. That's cool. Yeah.
When you're saying that what you take out, you have to put the same amount in,
Yeah.
did that apply to the theme songs as well? Because the Japanese theme songs are usually longer than...
No, that's short attention span American television. There's no way we're wasting all that time airing we already got you sitting down and watching it. We don't need it, you know, if their version was a minute and ours is 30 seconds, it's just, we want to get to the show, because the more things we show you in the show, such as how many Pokemon we can show you, or how many Yu-Gi-Oh cards we can show you in terms of the characters, you're going to buy them. Yeah.
Do you take care of your voice at all?
I do. It's funny, I've done a panel with a bunch of other voice actors and they're all like, I drink my herbal tea and I do meditation and I do this. I have maybe four things that I do. If I have a music gig that day, I won't do voiceover work because any work will wear out my chops. I'll feel the fatigue. If I have a session, most of my sessions are in my own studio and I'm unsupervised, so I can do them whenever I need to do them. I don't start before 11 because my allergies are so bad that I take an allergy pill when I first wake up. I gargle in the shower, hot water, right, clear out my head, and I take my allergy pill. And about 11 o'clock, I'm all clear and I'm ready to go. I'm allergic to dogs and I live with a big dog. I'm a big,
What kind of dog?
he's a pit lab chow. He's a rescue. He's awesome. But I'm allergic to him. But it's a good sacrifice. I got a best friend that just, he clogs my nose. People will tell you, don't drink this, don't do this. The only thing I don't drink is I don't put milk in my coffee because dairy is very bad, causes a lot of lip smack noise. I drink black coffee, which caffeine will dry you out, whatever. Yeah, but without caffeine, I'm going to be face down in the booth and not actually breathing anything. Trust me. And then if I have to do any sort of singing at late at night, and I don't condone the use of any sort of illegal substances, but I will take a sip of single malt scotch just to put some warmth in the back of my throat, and that helps me sing. Just a little sip. That's my thing. And of course the people on the panel were like, oh my goodness, you're drinking alcohol. They're like, I know, it's crazy, right? It's like, Prohibition just ended. But the other thing is this, and this is the serious note. If your voice is starting to feel sore, and you're starting to feel like I'm getting sick, I might start losing my voice, you have to drink a lot of water, that's all great, but don't take something that masks the pain, like your Cebacals and all the things that numb your voice. It's like playing sports, getting hurt, getting a shot, going back in. You feel great until tomorrow where you can't walk. So there's a product that I like to use called Singer Saving Grace. It's from Whole Foods. It's a natural herbal spray. You will curse me in the first 10 seconds when you use it because it tastes like shoe leather. It is really powerful. It's like 3 squirts and you're like, oh, I hate you, Eric Stuart. And then later you're like, but I feel so much better. It naturally reduces the swelling. And then the other thing you need to do is when you start to feel you're losing your voice is just shut up. Whispering is terrible. Whispering puts pressure on your cords. You'll do more damage. just don't speak. You can tell people, I'm resting my voice. And then that's it. Send them an email. Tell them, I need another day to get well. Because as a voice actor and a singer, if I lose my voice, I cannot earn anything. And I have been sick at least 5 times in my life where I have lost big money because I haven't had a voice for 5 days. So I will tell you right now, let the producer be kind of mad at you for not being available that next day. But understand that if you did do that screaming video game session, you would lose more work later on and do more damage. So yes, and a green apple will get rid of your mouth clicks. Bite a green apple, gets rid of all the mouth clicks. Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah.
Kind of like on the same track, so saving your voice, is there anything that you do when you started to improve your speaking?
Oh, okay, so the voice I use to make the most money in my life is this one. You know me from all the funny voices I do. This one. It's not how many funny voices you can do. It's can you read any piece of copy like you know what you're talking about even if you don't. I don't care what you hand me as long as it's in English. I will read it to you and you will think, wow, he knows how to build an engine. Oh my goodness, he's an expert on feminine hygiene. Like, anything you want to hand me, because I will break down the script in a way in my own brain that I will, these are the 3 questions that I ask myself every time I get a script. Who am I? What am I talking about? And who am I talking to? If you ask yourself those 3 questions, you will be able to read any script. When I say who am I your friendly next door neighbor? Am I your knowledgeable banker friend? Am I, the annoying guy at work? Okay, who am I? And what am I talking about? I don't care specifically what I'm talking about. Oh, this is a new phone that's better than this other company's phone. I don't need to know all the bells and whistles that go along with it. That's the bare bones of what I'm talking about. And how many people who am I talking to? The guy in the next cubicle. The world. The guy on the other side of the fence. My neighbor. That's it. Break it down like that. That's it. So trying to make my voice better. Now, if I want to learn dialects, if I want to see if I can do some funnier things, sure, I could listen to stuff and go, oh, that's a cool accent, I'm going to do that. Or maybe, oh, I love that actor, I'm going to try to impersonate him. Yeah, you could do that. But your goal as a voice actor, I know we're talking about the direction and the production of the show, but the acting side, if your goal should just be, how can I be really good me? So that I always sound like whatever I'm reading is not being read. It's my words. That's the key to all of this stuff. It's not that complicated, but people will tell you it's complicated. Oh, and also let me throw this out, because I said this in my voiceover panel, and these are my words of wisdom from old Uncle Eric. You might go to a convention where you are told, don't try to do this, because it's too competitive, and it's too hard. Okay? There's only 2 people in the world that tell you you can't. Those that are jealous of your ability and fear you being competition, and those that don't have it to do it themselves. They don't have the guts to do it themselves. If everyone listened to the can'ts, we would have no artists and musicians and painters and writers. So why should I have the benefit of being up here as an actor and a director and a musician? Why was it okay for me to follow that path and then tell you you can't because it's too hard? Now I will say this, you're going to be competing against someone like me, so you better be good. Right? But I welcome the challenge. It would make me much happier that if next year, if I were to come back, half this room said, I just started scoring a new TV show. I'm producing a thing. This thing I wrote is now getting, we're doing an animation thing on it, all that stuff. Because honestly, I don't want to ever hear can't. Don't tell me can't. Now, you could be realistic. Don't quit your day job. I've always had a day job. My day job has been voiceovers. My passion is music. I've never asked a music gig how much I'm getting paid. I've always said, where am I playing and how long do I get to play? Because I only play my own music. So it's always a joy, even if it's a terrible gig. But the voiceovers and the directing have given me the freedom to do those kinds of shows. So if I had to give something up, it'd be voice acting. I know that sounds crazy, but I can remove that from my life, but I can't remove the music from my soul, right? So keep your day job to be responsible, but also come up with a day job that gives you the flexibility to pursue your passion, so that you don't say later in life, ah man, what if? What do most actors do for a living? No. What do they do for a living? Thank you. Wait tables. Why do they wait tables? Flexibility in their schedule. Why? So they can audition. So if you have a 9-to-5 job that does not allow you to leave the building for more than a half an hour, you do not want to spend all this money making a voiceover demo reel and pursuing the art of voice acting. Unless you want to do audiobooks from your house later at night. You can do that too. I had a student that did that. She had a day job. We started to focus on the audiobook stuff. Started booking a bunch of audiobooks and quit her day job. Now she just acts. And most of the time she's doing audiobooks from her house, that's it. Right? But she didn't quit her job to then go pursue acting. She made sure that she could get the acting rolling, but had a job situation that the schedule worked. So that's another thing, is if you're involved in this, if you want to do this, make sure you are giving yourself the flexibility in your job, but don't go and quit your job. And then my last question, because I got the 10-minute wrap up here. Oh yeah.
From the composing aspect, what avenues would you recommend to get either your demos submitted or networking to producers?
Right. I'd say production houses is what you need to do. Anyone who would use music, whether it's even, advertising agencies in town, see if they are looking for music composers. Writing 30-second and 60-second radio beds can be very helpful. Creating your own music library of licensable pieces of music. And if you're going to do that, you write a 10 and a 15 and a 30 and a 60 of the same cut. Make it easy for them to edit. Make it easier for them to use it for the different formats of commercials that they might use. But present. See if they're interested in that. Same thing with voice acting. Advertising agencies, radio stations, any place that uses your craft, your skill. Don't limit yourself to just cartoons. Don't limit yourself to just animation. Any production company, and you can find who's producing these things and see if they take unsolicited submissions. Smaller ones might. And no one will know that you are a composer in town if you don't tell them you are. Your phone's not going to ring. You've got to reach out to them. Maybe create your website that's got samples of what you've got. In your email, send a link to it. Nobody wants to bog down their emails with giant files of music. But if you send them a nice cover letter with what you're doing and see if they take submissions and give them a link to some examples of what you do, you might get your foot in the door. Right? All right, so I want to ask one other question before we wrap up. Thank you so much. It's been a great convention. This is my first time here. You guys are great, and I had a great weekend. I hope you guys had a great weekend. So I leave with this because this is obviously a creative bunch. How many in this room write scripts? Okay. How many of these people write music? Okay.
All right, fan fiction.
People in here draw? Anybody do any video editing? Okay. So here's what I'm going to tell you. I know this sounds crazy coming from someone who benefits from the fact that you guys are fans of the shows that I work on. But what you just showed me were about 5 different production teams. If anything, when you come to these conventions, share in your fandom, but talk to each other about original ideas. You might be sitting next to someone who is a great writer, who really needs a great illustrator. who really needs a great music composer, who really needs a great voice actor. And you might find that the ideas that you guys have are just as good as what we were working on, but it's your own. Now, Dan Green and I were doing a convention together a year ago, and we were sitting together, we were in London together, and I said to him, you know, I've been doing this for 30 years, and you know, you and I have known each other forever, and at some point I just love to do my own thing. I do my own thing with music, but I love to do my own thing with cartoons. And he's like, well, I have this kind of, this starter idea that I've been, you know, kicking around for a while. And we talked about it, and I said, this is a great idea. Let's work on this. Let's put out something on our own. Because we know, if anybody knows how these shows work, it's us, right? So we put it in our schedule. I said, it has to be in the schedule. We have to have a meeting every week, conference call. Because if it's not in your schedule, you'll never do it. And you'll keep moving it around. So every Tuesday morning at 11 o'clock, the three of us, because there's one other partner with us, Tony Salerno, who directed a lot of stuff with us and played jazz on GX. We decided to cast all of the actors that you guys know from Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh, and Turtles that we produce, so that you've got everyone that you grew up with from the shows that I work on are in this. It's an original content idea, and it's a prelay show. We recorded 26 episodes. They are 5 minutes long. It's as if you did an audiobook while reading a black and white comic book. There's no lip flap. I'm doing sound design and mixing. I edit the dialogue and create the timing. Dan is drawing it, hand drawing it. He wrote it. Tony is scoring the music because he wants to get into more of that, and I do that, so I didn't need to do that. And so that's our production company. It's called Crossing the Gods. You can look for it, you know, and it's launching very soon. But it's a passion project, but it's also geared towards this fandom. The message of the show is it's sci-fi, it's superhero stuff, but it's also reality-based. The message of the show, the global message is, anyone can be a hero, but you have to save yourself before you can save others. You have to get through your own personal battles before you can help others. And it's really a cool show, and it's not funny voices. It's very legit. And I say this to you because I get paid to do someone else's work all the time. And that's great. And you guys are fans of things that someone else produced. And that's great, helps me. But I'd rather you guys come to me next year and say, I'm working on a new project, Eric. I could use you as a voice in this. I'd like to hire you for something. So take your passion for the geekdom that we all have and create and talk to each other, not just, you know, dance with each other to the Pokemon song. Great audience, right? Thank you.
Thank you for coming, Brock.